Is now the time to buy property? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your morning stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from Domain, asking the question of whether it is a good time to buy property now. Now, with everything going on with our first recession in 28 years, with all the global issues around the world, with tourism pretty much non-existent, with international students non-existent, with international trade taking a hit, and the trade war between Australia and China exacerbating our economic problems, with significant number of businesses propped up by JobKeeper, which is slowly dripping off, and a job seeker bonus, which is also going to reduce, as well as a moratorium on rental evictions, and banks promising not to evict people, as well as mortgage loan extensions. Holidays. Have I missed anything? All of these things are coming together now. So the question is it a good time to buy property? Well, you've also got to remember that around the world, Australia and many other countries are going through a QE program. So there seems to be a lot of people concerned with the potential for inflation. So is putting your money in a physical asset as the right time to do it? We also have a cash rate which is insanely low. I keep joking I need to upgrade my videos to 4K so you can see the difference in this chart. We're at 0.1%. There were even 0% mortgages that were appearing in Europe. I feel I need to put a clown hat on for these type of things, or a wig at least. A big puffy one, because we're in a clown world, everyone. So let's have a look. Let's see what the experts tell us of whether it's a good time to buy. I mean, frankly, it comes down to your individual circumstances. I would suggest everyone is very diligent in what they're buying. And knowing if you're buying something like this, where you've got hundreds of other houses in the suburb, how special is what you're buying? It's not, in some ways, it's similar to an apartment. Apartment just exacerbates it. If you're buying like in a complex of 300 apartments, you're competing with everyone else in that apartment. If you're renting it out, you're competing with all of them for the tenants in those buildings. They'll move around in the building to save money. Same thing. We were driving out to the suburbs for a project, and you just saw these little speckies everywhere with no yards, no trees, nothing. That's the advantage we have in an older suburb. Sure, our house is not very pretty, but at least we have trees, and the trees cause the house to fall over. But still, that's a completely different thing. So let's have a look at this. 2/3 of Australians believe it is a good time to buy property, the highest figure since mid-2019, according to a new survey. So 2/3 of Australians. But most Australians have a bias towards property. Property is what everyone goes in. It's just the way Australia is now. All of our wealth is diverted to property. People use property to mitigate their taxation. My concern with that is that in the long run, politically, it's not a very good thing for our nation, because it weakens our complexity of our economy. It means we're putting everything into these little speckies. And sure that, it's a bit of work getting one up, but it isn't that advanced. It's not that complex. It's just a slight modification of the bungalow style that came over from America, Chuck up some timber, put some brick veneers. Well, one thing that's interesting, let me know, any of the builders out there, if any of you have used the asphalt roofs from the States. I was watching a video about that. That looked quite interesting as a cost alternative to other roofs. I've never spec'd it here in Australia. Because I'm in Queensland, we spec pretty much sheet metal for all of our roofs most of the time. Rarely tiles. We do a lot of commercial and education work. You're not going to put domestic tiles on that. And slate for a high-end house down in Victoria when I was a student. So back to this. Many people have quickly shrugged off doubts about the property market and are more confident in buying real estate than they were pre-pandemic. The national survey of more than 23,000 real estate agents, people conducted each month by comparison platform Finder found. In April, as Australia was in lockdown and braced for what was expected to be the worst recession since the Great Depression, just 42% of respondents thought it was a good time to buy real estate. Finder's International Insights Manager Graham Cook said the public's perception of the security of the housing market took a huge hit as soon as the pandemic arrived in Australia. No one knew how deep the haul was going to be and its impact on the economy, he said. Well, no one knows yet. People are hoping that we'll get a V-shaped recovery. I think we'll get a K-shaped recovery, everyone. I think you'll have certain parts of the economy, and we're seeing it now, people who aren't even affected by this at all. And then other people who are taking a hit. You know, I'm talking to engineers who are flat out, who are busy. I've got mates who are the busiest they've ever been. And it's not just, you know, it's in industries and it's in states. We picked up a big job on 2 days before Christmas Eve. I've been working frantically these last 2 weeks, guys. Today's the issue day. I'm getting something out today, so it's been a bit crazy. So we've been quite busy too. You don't know how it is. Sadly, I think it's going to affect the lowest socioeconomic people the worst. People who are in the jobs that have just been hit. If you're in tourism, you're going to be hit. Even the higher socioeconomic jobs in the education sector are going to be hit because international students, you know, even if they open everything up, will they be coming back? Look at the dollar. We're at 77 cents, 76 cents. We're the poor man's America. You know, how many people are going to be able to fly over to America for a better education? Just look at international uni fees, guys. International student fees in Australia, they're not cheap. Anyway, back to this. But it was pretty quickly alleviated, and now people are more enthusiastic about buying property than before the pandemic. Well, everyone wants to get into property. Everyone wants to have a home. We have just rented a place literally up the street, and the BS you need to jump through. They want all these bank statements and this stuff for something that doesn't amount under 10 grand for 6 months of rental. It's nuts. It is nuts. I could sign up on a $40,000 a year commercial tenancy with less jumping through the hoops than for a little shack, a little tiny 3-bedder house. I can't believe it. It just shows you how removed I am from that sector. But that's one of the privileges of actually having your own place. So I can understand. I can completely understand. The survey also found those who expect property values to somewhat increase is up 44% from lows of 18% in April. Mr. Cook said leading economists were even more positive about the economy and housing market than the public. All of the 40-plus economists Finder surveyed in December believed Australia would stay out of recession in 2021. It's very positive for the housing market, Mr. Cook said. All the lights are shining at the same time. After the doom and gloom of 2020, is there now a golden window of opportunities for buyers and sellers? Or should one tread with caution when considering entering the real estate game? Well, one should always tread with caution when making any large investment or property decision. I mean, come on. You don't want FOMO, which is what we're seeing in a lot of these articles. You don't want FOMO to force you to make a rash decision. CommSec chief economist Craig James said the outlook for property across the country was encouraging. At the moment, the interesting thing is, it doesn't matter where you travel to, home prices are rising, Mr. James said. There were only 2 out of 88 regions which recorded falling house prices last month, which is quite remarkable. You've got to remember, though, they're talking all of this stuff up, but there's still all these interventions in the economy. So what's going to happen if they pull these interventions and house prices start to fall? There'll be calls for political intervention. And if we have an election next year, what do you reckon is going to happen? So does that mean, houses are going to go up in value? Or does that mean the government is going to inflate the property bubble even more? Which means houses will go up. You can feel like you're a genius, I'm going to Rachel, look at how much value is increased in a house by doing nothing. Or wait till we do this renovation. Probably won't make any difference, but still. But then, your loaf of bread costs twice as much. Your power's going up. Let's jump here. I want to introduce some people to this concept, which I've spoken about several times, the candle-on effect. It refers to the change in relative prices resulting from a change in money supply. The change in relative prices occurs because the change in money supply has a specific injection point and therefore a specific flow path through the economy. Now let's say the government just by chance did a certain program called Home Builder. And they used that to stimulate the housing market, which increased the money supply entering the economy through that point. What do you think would happen? So we'll have to see. I've got another article we'll look at from the ABS. How home builder has shot up, has increased housing. Where is it? Building approvals. Will this chart update? Yes, it's updated. Fantastic. And we'll go through this later today. But you can see that rise. It's shot up. The question is, we'll have to see if that inflates the cost of it, which is something I'm not looking forward to because we're about to do a build. We're not going through home builder because you can't do it as an owner builder. You need to sign up a builder for that, which, you know, I'm too cheap. We want to save the money and we want to actually do stuff ourselves, manage it ourselves. We'll see how it goes. But experts have warned the price of inner city apartments, here we go, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney, could continue to fall this year if national borders remain closed due to a drop in immigration and international students. Well, I don't know who would be getting into an inner city apartment unless you wanted to live there, I guess. But if you're getting a whole lot of people that are, you know, they're going to tank the price. People are going to sell out if they have to hold on to it. You know, how long are the borders going to remain closed? That's the thing. People are going to take a gamble if they're going to hold on to it. People don't want to sell at a loss psychologically. If they can afford to hold on to it, they will, but you don't want to be stuck there. And I'm paranoid about the construction quality of a lot of these apartments, guys. One thing to do when you're looking at an apartment, go on the council website, look at if, you know, construction work happened next door or around, close, look at their submissions to councils. Because if you had have done that, you would have found the dilapidation report that the neighbours next to Mascot Towers did. That was there, publicly available. We went through it on this channel. That's a little thing to consider, to have a look at if you're looking at buying an apartment and someone's building something next door. Because then they would have gone and photographed it all, because it's in their best interest to ensure that they record the existing damage to a property. And, you know, it'd be a good accompaniment to a defect or building and pest inspection. It shouldn't cost you anything. So Mr. James said there were two factors at play in the property market: interest rates and job security. The Reserve Bank is basically saying the cash rate will remain steady for 3 years, so that gives people a degree of confidence. Mr. James said, I think that's an encouraging aspect, whether you're an owner-occupier or an investor. Australia's unemployment rate was also expected to peak at a much lower level than initially anticipated. But the issue is, we can never be too alert for changes in the economy and in the health status of the nation, he said, referencing outbreaks of coronavirus and the possibility of more lockdowns. We can never get too complacent until the bulk of the population is inoculated. There was also the risk of policy mistakes, he warned, particularly around the future of stimulus packages introduced last year to cushion the economy. If the Reserve Bank and federal, state and territory governments want to ease back on some of the support measures, they need to do so in a gentle fashion, otherwise we'll see a fresh downturn in the economy. That's it. So it'll become a political issue, everyone. We'll start seeing, if there's even discussion of these things petering off, we're going to start to see articles appear to persuade the public to push for more political intervention or to keep it going. We're seeing it also about the job seeker reduction. You're starting to see all these articles claiming, you know, people are going to be in poverty and all of these things that are appearing there. And which is, in some ways, it's understandable, because job seeker, the original one, or the doll, you know, well, I see it as an emergency payment that you should fall upon only in times of disaster. Really, when your reserves have been spent and you don't have capacity to generate any income. It's not something you should depend on because you can't trust the government. That's the simple thing. And then you've got to deal with that bureaucracy, which in itself it should be enough of a punishment and a hindrance to avoid it. But that's probably not the common view. I think a lot of people seem to think that these these emergency payments or welfare is there to support you because you pay into it. You're entitled to it. You pay your taxes as a good citizen, and the government is there to take care of you. The problem is the government doesn't seem to plan that well. So, they've already spent all the money we've given them, and they've spent a lot more. I think maybe it's just sensible we learn from these foolish mistakes of trusting our leaders. Richard Harvey, buyer's agent and CEO of propertybuyer.com.au, cautioned vendors and buyers of economic wobbles in 2021. We'll see difficult news and negative headlines, Mr. Harvey said, but it's about buyers understanding the bigger picture. Property is a long-term proposition. The end of JobKeeper in the second quarter will probably have a muted effect on the property market, he said. Some commentators are suggesting there will be large volumes of mortgage defaults, but the evidence is very scant. My advice to buyers is not to rush, but don't delay it either. For homeowners thinking about moving, he cautioned against waiting in the hope of snaring a cheaper property. As long as you're not selling and then waiting to buy, thinking that the market is going to fall, he said. So we will have to see, everyone. What do you reckon? What do you think? I mean, if property prices keep shooting up, more people, because of the candle-on effect, because of government adding stimulus to this, putting fuel on this bonfire of a sector, it's going to flow through to other parts of the economy. So we'll have to see what inflation is next quarter, and if build costs, new home construction has gone up, because that'll be interesting to see. So guys, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to help support the content I cobble together here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.